Hey, what's up, everyone? My name's Ricky. I go by the social media handle of Animal Based Dad. I'm a metabolic health and wellness geek, enthusiast, someone who has gone from failing metabolic health in my early 30s, stumbled across dietary lifestyle interventions, settled on doing a few self-experiments with dietary lifestyle interventions, and ended up going down this huge rabbit hole into diet, lifestyle, metabolic health, how nutrition impacts that, and so far down the road that I'm about to publish my first book on the topic, a self-help style book aimed at guiding a layman through a dietary lifestyle change for those who are interested in it. And along the journey, I've picked up a fair bit of information. I'm a master's educated project and program manager, very analytically minded, enjoy getting into the meat of the subject matter, and I want to understand how things work. So I've spent going on 7 years now really diving through the literature, through the testimonies, through the available information and the science that underpins metabolic health, what influences your metabolic health, and how that influences your health outcomes. And something that I picked up many years ago, and I think it was actually Dr. Jordan B. Peterson who said it. I don't think it's his quote, but if I'm recalling correctly, he's the first person I heard say it, and it stuck with me. It really resonated. And the saying was that you don't know what you do not know. And that was quite profound for me. What that means is, if you don't know a particular thing, a subject matter, a technology, a tool, a creature, a thing, if you don't even know that it exists, right? It's not even on your radar. It's not a blip on your radar. You've got no clue that it is in existence. Then you have absolutely no hope of knowing anything about it, right? So you don't know what you do not know, and you don't even realize that you don't know about that thing because you have no clue that it exists. Okay. In the research for my book, and my book is a non-fiction, science-based, taking all the relevant literature around what human beings are supposed to eat in accordance with our physiology, so what our body is set up for, our essential nutrients, what our digestive system is made to cope with in terms of its structure, its function, what digestive enzymes we have, what each of them do, where we uptake nutrition within our digestive tract, what the nutrition does within us, how that fuels and propels the different systems of our bodies. So really getting into the meat of what is metabolic health. Another way to describe metabolic health would probably be cellular health. So non-fiction book, fully referenced, spent a lot of time going through the literature. And in so doing, I got to the point where I wanted to make a table in the section where I deal with human essential nutrition, so the things that we have to obtain from diet. So essential in the context of nutrition means that your body needs it, it's mandatory, you can't do without it. If you don't have it, you develop a deficit, a deficiency. That deficiency leads to the onset of illness or disease, and in severe cases, death, right? So have to have it, it's mandatory, there's no two ways about it. And your body cannot make it. You do not synthesize it yourself, either at all or in sufficient quantities to meet your needs, which means you have to obtain it from your diet. You have to take it in from exogenous external sources, right? So mandatory has to be obtained from the diet. That is what the term essential means in terms of nutrition. And it's very important to be clear on that, because when we talk about essential nutrition, people often conflate this and think it just means important nutrition. Now, there's a number of things which are important for your body, important for certain cells or functions or systems within your body, that are not essential because your body can make it itself. A good example of this, glucose. There are certain cells, your brain and your epithelial cells, predominantly, kidneys to a degree, certain cells in your body have to run on glucose. They cannot run on lipids. They cannot run on ketones or fatty acids. They have to run on glucose. So glucose is important, right? But you have a mechanism in your liver and your kidneys called gluconeogenesis, which is the conversion of predominantly proteins, but also lipids, into glucose. And this runs 24/7, 365. It's a evolved, adapted mechanism in your body that provides the glucose needed for the cells that need it. We do not have to eat glucose or carbohydrate from which glucose is derived. We do not have to eat that from the exogenous sources. Our body will take the proteins or the lipids from what we're eating, and it will convert those into glucose, so that the cells and the functions that need glucose always have it. Right? Gluconeogenesis is not something that shuts off and then only turns on when you don't have sufficient glucose in your diet. It's not a backup mechanism. That's how I used to think about it. I used to think that gluconeogenesis was this alternate mechanism, this backup that was sort of sat there dormant waiting for your glucose to drop below a certain level and you're not taking any more in, and then it would spring into action and start to churn the motor and produce glucose for you to use. That actually turns out that's not how it works at all. It constantly works. It's constantly working there in the background. It's constantly going. And because of that, and that's a very important distinction, at least in my understanding, because it's constantly working, that tells me that that's meant to be the primary mechanism for glucose provision for the cells and functions within your body that need it. Because if that's not meant to be the primary mechanism for providing the glucose, why is it always on? That makes no evolutionary sense. Why would your body be spending the time, effort, and energy needed to maintain that function if your body is intended to get glucose from an exogenous source? It doesn't stack up. It doesn't make sense to me. So by virtue of the fact that gluconeogenesis is running 24/7, it tells me that that is supposed to be the primary provisioning mechanism for glucose in your body for the cells and functions that need it. Therefore, glucose is not essential. Your body makes it. You do not need to take it from the diet, right? Which by definition makes carbohydrate non-essential. Yes, you can eat carbohydrate and that will turn into glucose through your digestive system and into your bloodstream, and yeah, you can absolutely do that, but it's not essential. So, coming back to my point, I was dealing with the section of my book that talks about essential nutrition, right? So the stuff that we absolutely need, it's mandatory. Without it, we develop deficiency and disease. But we have to obtain it from the diet because our body cannot synthesize it itself, either at all, or at least not in sufficient quantities to meet our needs. Right, so we've got essential amino acids, which are your proteins. We've got essential fatty acids. We've got essential vitamins and minerals. That's it. The protein section was very, very easy to do. Beautiful little table. That's the name of the protein. That's its function in the body. These are the sources where you find it. The most bioavailable sources, of course, because we want to make sure that we can use it. Dead easy. Literature is very, very clear on essential amino acids. Had no real struggle there. Essential fatty acids became a little bit of a conundrum, for lack of a better expression. And without wanting to go off on too much of a tangent, I spent a lot of time looking into essential fatty acids, your omega-6s, your omega-3s, so on and so forth, and understanding the different types and what they do in the body, so on and so forth. And yeah, it was really, it was enlightening. But what I didn't know was that there was a way to test for your fatty acid levels or your fatty acid profile. I didn't know at the time that there was a ratio between omega-6 to omega-3. Now, omega-6 and omega-3 are group names. They're not a specific fatty acid. It's the group name for a type of fatty acid. So under your omega-6s, you've got linoleic acid, and you've got arachidonic acid. You've got dimer-gamma-linoleic acid. Yeah, so those are your omega-6s. Oh, sorry, you've also got gamma-linoleic acid. So those are your omega-6s. So omega-6 is almost like a group name, a family name. And then you've got the specific fatty acids that fall underneath that. And you've got the same on the omega-3 side. It's the group name, and then you've got the different ones that fall underneath it. So we've got alpha-linoleic acid. We've got EPA. I'm not going to try to pronounce it. We've got DPA, and we've got DHA as well. What I learned in the research that I was doing is that so far as having a particular function in the body goes, on the omega-6 side, it was arachidonic acid, which has the particular function in the body, and that's on the pro-inflammatory side. It's on the immune response side. Linoleic acid, not so much. There was a little bit of talk about it may be useful in like cell membranes and skin and stuff like that, but there really wasn't much to talk about specifically what linoleic acid does. Now, linoleic is, you'd almost picture it as like the parent omega-6, and it's primarily suggested for inclusion in the diet to act as a precursor for your body to convert into arachidonic acid and your other omega-6 acids. But the conversion is very, very poor in humans. You don't do a good job of it. Your body just doesn't do it. So on the omega-3 side, you've got the same sort of thing. You've got alpha-linoleic acid, which is the so-called parent omega-3, but that's only because it's sort of recommended to include in the diet so that your body can then convert that into the other omega-3s that actually do functions. Now, don't get me wrong, alpha-linoleic acid does certain functions. It's important to cell membrane and the fluidity of cell membranes, skin health, so on and so forth. It has functions in the body. It is an essential fatty acid. You do need it. You do have to get it from the diet, but in much, much smaller quantities versus what is recommended in, say, the dietary guidelines. And the dietary guidelines are at the quantities that they are because they want you to focus on plant sources of fats, non-animal saturated sources of fats, because of the heart health hypothesis. Different topic for a different day. But suffice to say, I went into the deep end on what the different fatty acids are, what they do in the body, so on and so forth, put together the same sort of table for my book, for my readers to see the fatty acid, the family it falls in, the function it has, and the best sources for it. But what I didn't appreciate, and I didn't know existed, was that there's a ratio of omega-6 to omega-3, and that being imbalanced in that ratio can cause harm. Can, let's say, according to the literature, we sort of come into the world with this 1-to-1 ratio, omega-6 to omega-3, right, 1-to-1. And then through diet and so forth, the ratio starts to change. And there's a bit of debate in the literature as to what the perfect ratio is. Well, I suppose the perfect ratio is 1-to-1, right? Ideal ratio, absolute pinnacle. But the real world practical optimal range, and it's a range because there's no set number, Seems to be somewhere between sort of like 3 to 1 up to like maybe 9 to 1, 12 to 1, somewhere there. And that's omega-6 to omega-3. And being above that puts you into a more or an ever increasing inflammatory state. Remember, omega-6s are associated with inflammatory response, immune response, and they're necessary, and they do a very, very important function in the body. But having too much of that and too little of the omega-3s, which are associated with the anti-inflammatory response, the calming response within the body, so to speak, having that balance wrong can cause chronic inflammation. And what the literature seems to agree on, the consensus, is that being at a ratio of, I think it was 32 to 1 or higher, so 32 parts omega-6 to 1 part omega-3 or higher than that, is catastrophic. Like that's chronic inflammation, systemic inflammation, and that's associated to all sorts of negative health outcomes, all sorts of chronic disease. Like that inflammation sits as one of the root causes for several chronic diseases. It's really, it's a bad place to be. You don't want to be there. And then I got put on to the fact that you can test this ratio. And that's the purpose of this video. So I didn't know that you could test this ratio. I didn't know that things like that existed. I'd heard of people talk about test-based nutrition before. I've come across a few people talking about test-based nutrition, and in fact my wife suggested we do some testing a while back. I cannot remember the name of the company, but they were useless. There were some tests done to sort of see what foods we tolerated, or rather what we didn't tolerate. That was the purpose of it, was to sort of highlight any epigenetic intolerances within our sort of genes, so to speak. Anything in the diet we should look out for. Mine came back saying that beef. I have an intolerance to beef, and anyone who knows me and anyone who has followed my content, has followed my health journey, anyone who understands anything about human nutrition understands that there's only one condition in the world, one known medical condition which results in an intolerance to beef, and that's alpha-gal syndrome. And alpha-gal syndrome is a disease that you pick up specifically, and I think it's the only way to pick it up, is from the bite of a lone star tick. And basically what happens is something to do with that tick. I can't tell if it's a bacteria or what it is. I can't remember the specifics, but I know that alpha-gal is the only condition where you become ill because of red meat, where you have like severe allergic reactions. Like people who have alpha-gal, like red meat is to them what shellfish is to someone with a shellfish allergy. Like it's bad news. Like they have to stay away from the stuff. And that obviously I don't have, because red meat is practically all I eat, and it's practically all I've eaten for years. Literally years. I went full carnivore in June of 2022. Right, it's October, 31st of October 2024. Like if I was allergic to red meat, I would be in, at least I'd be in bad shape by now. Like I'd be very, very sick. But I'm not, and I'm obviously not allergic to red meat. So that epigenetic test was absolute nonsense, and it left me feeling a bit bemused with the whole testing thing. And I thought, right, no, yeah, not into that. But I'd come across loads of people who have talked about testing and do testing and so on and so forth, and I thought it's interesting. And then I got put onto a company which offers what they call a balance test. And what this balance test is, it's a fatty acid profile testing which looks at 11 different fatty acids. So the 11 sort of crucial fatty acids that have specific functions within your body, and gives you a readout of how, sort of where your levels sit for each of them, but then also very importantly it tells you what your omega-6 to omega-3 ratio is, and gives you a much needed insight into the reality of where you sit on that pro versus anti-inflammatory balance index, for lack of a better expression. Now the company's called Zinzino, and I've got their little box here. So this has arrived in the post. I'm going to do the test now, tonight. That's the purpose of this video, is to document me doing the test. And then I'm going to start to take their balance oil, as they call it. So it's an omega-3 oil, a fish oil, that they've combined with polyphenols from olives. And the science and theory behind that is the polyphenol acts as a far superior antioxidant versus, say, vitamin E, which your normal traditional fish oils and cod liver oils and so on and so forth would use as an antioxidant. And the reason that's important is because fish oil, cod liver oil, krill oil, stuff like that, oxidizes incredibly quickly. And once it's oxidized, it's useless to you. You're not going to absorb and assimilate and use it for its intended functions in the body. That omega-3 is sort of done, and you basically just excrete it, and that's that. It doesn't do you any good. There is some evidence, and there's some argument in the literature that perhaps those oxidized agents can lead to harm. I'm not too sure. I'm not an expert in that. I think at the very least the important part to take away is the fact that if it's oxidized, it does you no good. And that's it. Like, you're basically wasting your money on a product that does nothing for you. But how the hell do you know? And that's where Zinzino comes in, and that's where I thought, you know what, this is a brilliant concept, because their balance test gives you a baseline. So I'll do the test tonight, and I'll have a baseline for my fatty acid profile, my 11 essential and important fatty acids that do functions in the body and in my cells that are very important, crucial to my sort of cellular health, and then the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3, that inflammatory versus anti-inflammatory ratio, to see where I sit in that. Now, I'm someone who has eaten well, I think, for at least the last 6 years. I'm in the best shape of my adult life. I'm in the best health of my life. I'm very close to the literature on this. As I said, I'm about to publish a book on it to try to help others. I blog about it, I write about it, like I'm passionate about it, let's say. So I would like to think that my results should be pretty good. I'm definitely not 1-to-1, and I very much doubt I'm anywhere near 3-to-1. There's other factors, lifestyle factors, which suggest to me that, yeah, no, it's not going to be near perfect. But you'd like to think that, given how I eat and what I eat, I should be pretty close to optimal. I should be well within a healthy range. So if 32-to-1 or higher is the very unhealthy range, I'd like to think that maybe I'm somewhere around 12-to-1. That's my guess. I don't know. That's where this test comes in. This test is brilliant, because I can take the test now, and I'm going to do that now tonight. Once the test is done, I send that off. It goes to an independent lab. It doesn't go back to Zinzino. And actually, that's an important segue, and it's worth mentioning this now. So, the thing I like about Zinzino, and the thing that convinced me to use them as opposed to other companies that are out there offering similar products and similar services, is the fact that Zinzino didn't create this test. Zinzino commissioned an independent, world-renowned laboratory, specifically Vitas Analytical Services in Oslo, to design and create the test, and then carry out the test, or the analysis of the tests. So Zinzino commissioned the test and sold the test kits. Vitas Analytical Services designed and created the tests, and they do the analysis of them, and they're a third-party independent lab. They're not, they don't belong to Zinzino, and Zinzino doesn't belong to them. It's not the same company. They're independent of each other. I think that is massively important, because had Zinzino created and done the testing in-house, and then sell a supplement off the back of it to supposedly correct your deficiency and correct your health, that would strike me a bit like marking your own homework. I wouldn't trust that. I would trust that about as much as I trust politicians, which is to say not at all. So it struck me as hugely important that the test was designed and is carried out by a third party, an independent third party. Superb. Absolutely love that. Right, so you do your test. Excuse me 1 second. Okay, so you do your test now. You start taking their balance oil. Give it a 4-month trial, right? 120-day trial period. I've lined this up so that I'm doing the test on October 31st. I start taking balance oil tomorrow morning. So 1st of November through to the 28th-ish of February next year. That's my 120-day, 4-month trial window. And then they send you a second test. And you do the second test. And you get a before and after, black and white. What did you start at? What was your profile? What were your ratios? What did you end up at after the use of the balance oil? Have you improved? If you've improved, by how much? Have you not improved? Like, what's gone on? And I love that. I love that we live in an age where you can take human technology and ingenuity, and instead of using it to enable convenience, like 99% of all technology seems to be geared for, making life easier and more convenient, you can take that technology and you can use it to give you valuable insights into your health and well-being, and use that to inform your strategy for optimizing your health and extending your well-being for as far as you can through your lifespan. That's amazing. Absolutely mind-blowing that we live in an age like that. I love that. So I'm going to do this Zinzino test now. I'm going to start taking their balance oil from tomorrow. So they have some pretty outlandish claims on their website about how powerful and potent this combination of the fish oil and the polyphenols derived from olives are, and that it makes the fish oil, the omega-3s within the fish oil to be specific, it makes them bioavailable to your cells and system for up to 36 hours, I think it was, 35 hours, 36 hours. Now, interestingly, in the literature, it suggested that from ingestion, you need roughly around about 24 hours for those omega-3s to reach your cells and to be integrated or assimilated, taken into your cells and to start to do their function there. So having something that goes beyond that into the 30-odd hours, that means that it's bioavailable well beyond the requirements, and that's fantastic, and that's their claim to fame. The thing that supposedly sets their balance oil apart is the fact that it's bioavailable for far longer. It doesn't oxidize as quickly as the other standard off-the-shelf stuff does. And that's why it's so powerful at correcting that omega-6 to omega-3 ratio in people. And that's why they're confident enough and ballsy enough to say, do a test to start, independent third-party test. There you go, off you go. We'll sell you the test, but you do it and you send it back to the lab that created it. They're independent of us. They will send you the results. Fantastic. Take the oil for 120 days. We'll send you a second test. Do it again. Send it back off to that independent lab. They'll send you your results again. Compare your before and after. Has our product done what we say it does? Has it given you the results that we claim it should? That's quite ballsy. I can respect that. So I'm going to give it a go. I've self-experimented with diet plenty over the last 7 years. Why not see if there's ways to take human ingenuity, human technology, and use it to augment and improve my health rather than working against it? I think that's an exciting place to be. So let's get into it. So I've got the box here. Open it up. There's a little test kit. Sealed. Yeah. See in this box, we've got our balance oil. So I've gone for 300ml in the lemon. I've got another 300ml in the orange lemon mint. I've got so I've got 100ml in orange lemon mint and another 100ml in orange lemon mint. So these are the two sort of travel packs, I'd say. So off the bat, the first criticism that I have, would have preferred that it was glass bottles, not plastics. So yeah, Zinzino, you may want to have a think about that, my friends. It's a phenomenal product, supposedly. I'm very keen to see what it does over this 120-day trial period. Very keen to put it to the test. Put my money where my mouth is and tell you what if the product does what it's supposed to do. You've got me. I'm already using omega-3 supplements because I understand how important they are. I understand how difficult they can be to get in adequate quantities through the diet. I understand that supplementation can be a valuable strategy to help you meet your required levels. Fantastic. I don't particularly like eating oily fish, so mackerel, sardines, anchovy, herring, stuff like that. I'll eat it once in a while. It's definitely not something I want to be doing often. It's just not the taste that I want. I like steak, I like stew, I like beef. I like ruminant animals. Eat them happily. But yeah, it's a bit disappointing that it's plastic. Like I'm not too stoked with that. I would have much preferred, and I would have thought it would be much better for this to be in a glass container. So there we go. Here's one criticism. And we've got a little shot glass here. 50 mils worth. Yeah, 50 mils worth. And it says on the balance oil that the ratio is 0.15 milliliters per kilogram of your body weight. So let's work that out for me quickly. It's interesting that it's per kilo of your body weight. I wonder if, like protein, you would want to work it out based on your ideal body weight, so your body weight at ideal body composition, or if it's just current body weight. Because if you're someone who has an omega-6 to omega-3 ratio that's a little bit out of whack, you're pro-inflammatory, and you're maybe not in the best shape that you should be, and you're going to use this as part of your strategy to correct your metabolic health, which by default will also start to correct your body composition, then you're going to start losing weight. You're going to start to shed excess body fat, become leaner, trimmer, slimmer, better shape. So yeah, it's interesting. I'll have to get hold of the partner that I bought this off of, the Zinzino partner, the rep, and just ask that question. It'd be interesting to find out from their sort of team of scientists or advisors or whoever, the ratio, would it be for your ideal body weight? So for myself, my ideal body weight at ideal body composition is probably about 85 kilos. I'm walking around, I fluctuate between 97 and 99 at the moment. So let's go with 98 as the middle number. So 98 times 0.15, that means I need 14.7 mils, so we'll call it 15 mils a day. Now a 300 ml bottle, oh no, wait, I've done that completely wrong. So I've got a 300 ml bottle and I'm having 14.7 mils a day. That means that the bottle is going to last me 20 days. That's not great, is it? That's not great. But yeah, it's an interesting ratio. We'll have a look. We'll have a think what I may do. I'm going to ask about it. So I'll start with the ratio, the recommended one, because I've got 600, 800 mils here. But the subscription is a 300 ml bottle every month. So I will ask about that and I will see, because it doesn't seem right that the subscription is a 300ml bottle, but then the ratio requires you to have more than that in a month. I'll ask a few questions about that and see what they say. But anyway, so there's the balance oil. We'll see what that does over the next 120 days. I think it's going to be quite interesting. I think it could be pretty good. Let's get on with the balance test. Bear with me a second while I get something to open this. Okay, and we're back. So, got something to open it. Sealed in cellophane, which definitely will make sure this is a brand new kit and not something anyone's fiddled with. So there we have it. We'll open it up. And we've got an instruction manual. Many languages. Wow, that's actually impressive. They've got it in 1, 2, but I won't count them, but there's looks to be about 30 different languages here, which is awesome. Okay, so got that there. Let's open it up. There we go. So we got a little label to post that back off to Norway to Vitas Analytical Services in Oslo. So that's awesome. We've got our little sealed kit there. It's like a sterile swabber plaster and 2 little lances, because you've got to get the finger prick to get the blood. What is this then? Okay, there's your little, so I won't show it all, but there's a little security number, a unique ID. So that is the unique ID for my test, for this test, and I need to keep that safe. There's the card. You can see there on that little indented bit, that's like almost like a litmus paper or something like that. It's in there that I need to put my blood samples. So I've got to fill those 2 circles with the blood from my finger. And then it's got a return bag into which that goes to preserve it, and then that all goes into the envelope and off it goes. So with all of that in mind, so we've got everything that we need there. I'm going to pause again. I'm going to go wash my hands. So wash my hand, get everything ready, get my arm ready, do the finger prick, get the blood on there. Let's get that done. Okay, back again. I've got the little alcohol swab here. Get that done. Which finger are we going to do that guy there? Get the finger a bit clean. Get the lance. There. I'm going to get the blood drops into there. There we go. Might do touch more now. But yeah, there we go. We've got the blood drops in. That's done, and now we can patch ourselves up. Oh, isn't that kind? They even provide a little plaster there. So let me get myself patched up, and then we'll box this up and get it ready to ship off. Okay, so I've got my blood samples on there. I tear this part off. That's got my number on it, so that I know which one is mine. The results that will come back will be registered to this number. So I'll go onto Zinzino's website, I'll register this number under my email address. I get a mail back to say when the results for this number have come back, and then I can log on and have a look at what the results are. But it's cool because it means that the lab at Vitas, they don't see my name, they don't see my details, and likewise it means that Zinzino, there's no one sort of involved there that sees my stuff either. So that's cool. So I've got that done. I then have to put it back into this guy. Well, slide that in there. So that's back into the little package bit there. And then open up the return pouch. Okay, that's cool. It's got a little anti-moisture jobby in there. So that's fine, that can stay. In that goes. Right, seal that off. And sealed off, and that needs to go into the envelope. Seal the envelope. Job's good. Then I send that off tomorrow morning on my way into work. Stop at the post office, pay for the appropriate postage. I don't think that a first class stamp is going to get it to Norway, but I'm guessing. I don't know what's needed to send internationally like that, but they'll sort it out for me. And off it goes on its merry way to Vitas Analytical Services. And then I'll wait. I don't know how long it'll take, maybe a couple of weeks, who knows. But in the meantime, I'll start taking the balance oil from tomorrow morning. When I get the results back from this test, I'll do another video. I'll upload that, talk through my thoughts and feelings. And yeah, it's hard not to feel nervous because everything that I've learned about diet and nutrition today suggests to me that I should be in pretty good shape. I feel like I'm in good shape. I feel fairly confident based on how I eat that I should be in pretty good shape. Certainly better than average, definitely better than the average male my age here in the UK. But yeah, I guess proof is in the eating of the pudding, and now we're going to find out for real. So yeah, we'll do this again when those results come back and have a talk through it, see what it is. That'll be the baseline. Then after 120 days when I get the second test, we'll do that again. I'll video that so that I've got record of it, send it off, and then when that comes back, then we'll do a before and after, and that'll be where the verdict is read. Is Zinzino balance oil all it's cracked up to be? Is it not? Let's see what happens, but certainly from the write-up on the test is the thing that really interests me. I think it's a phenomenal piece of kit, phenomenal technology. Really, like the possibilities that this sort of testing offers in terms of understanding exactly what is happening internal to you at the cellular level, and how to use that to inform your strategy for improving your health, maintaining your health, extending your health span for as far as possible across your lifespan. That is an amazing place to be. A really, really interesting time to live in. So yeah, that's the bit like that's what got me hooked. That's why I chose Zinzino. We'll put their balance oil to the test. to date. I'll just grab it quickly. To date, I've just been using your standard stock, off the shelf fish oil. I thought this was good stuff. I thought this was going to do the job. Certainly has all the right advertising, makes all the right claims. But yeah. So here we've got DLA tocopherol acetate, which is a type of vitamin E, and that's the antioxidant in this one. If we compare that to the balance oil, the balance oil has cold pressed olive oil mixed with tocopherols, and it's that olive oil. Oh, it's even got vitamin D3 in it. That's interesting. But it's that olive oil extract, the polyphenols, which supposedly do the job here in keeping that not oxidized. I think that's the right way to say. But keeping it bioavailable, so that when you take it, you've got more than that 24-hour period that you need for that to actually reach your cells. And that's the important part. This, according to the research put forward by Zinzino into oxidation on fish oils, this doesn't do the trick. You certainly don't get the uptake that you need, not in comparison to the balance oil. That's Zinzino's claim. So we will see in 120 days time whether that has turned out to be true or not. We will have my before, we will have my after, and we'll reveal what has actually happened. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bit long-winded, but I think this is incredibly interesting. If you're considering doing some testing yourself, if like me you didn't know that omega-6 to 3 ratio was a thing, or that it could be tested, hit me up in the comments, send me a DM. I'll put you in touch with the right people at Zinzino, and we'll get you tested, get you some balance oil, and see how you do. Thanks, everyone. Cheers.